They were born into skyscrapers, heirs to hedge funds, newspapers, stock empires, raised by billionaires, expected to become them. But what happens when the crown doesn't fit? When the torch is too heavy to carry? When your last name opens every door, but you're not sure you want to walk through any of them? This isn't just a story about privilege. It's about pressure, the kind you can't buy your way out of. Because in the world of high finance, legacies are everything, and not all of them survive the handoff. Today, we're tracking 5 sons, each born into the upper crust of capitalism, each raised under the weight of billion-dollar expectations, and each forced to decide what kind of man he'd become when the empire became his. Some rose, some rebelled, and one became a farmer. Yes, a literal farmer. We'll get to him. This is Inheriting Billions. Where are the sons of Wall Street now? Let's start with the new face of a controversial empire. George Soros didn't just make billions. He moved nations, built one of the largest philanthropic machines in modern history. And for decades, he was the favorite villain of conspiracy theorists, cable news anchors, and authoritarian regimes. So when George named his son, Alexander Soros, as his successor in 2023, it wasn't just a promotion. It was a lightning rod being handed from one hand to another. Alex Soros had options: Harvard PhD, intellectual circles, an Instagram timeline that looks like the G20 guest list. But instead of sidestepping the family spotlight, he walked straight into it. He took over the Open Society Foundations, a global web of influence built on $25 billion in assets. He restructured the leadership, doubled down on climate action and political advocacy. And in 2024, he got engaged to Yuma Abedin, one of Hillary Clinton's closest advisors. If his father's empire was controversial before, Alex didn't exactly lower the temperature. He embraced the role, part diplomat, part disruptor, part lightning rod 2.0. But here's the thing about inheriting influence. You don't just get the power, you inherit the enemies too. For every handshake with a world leader, there's a hashtag conspiracy brewing online. For every progressive reform OSF funds, there's a new wave of backlash waiting on the airwaves. And unlike his father, Alex grew up in the digital age where scrutiny is faster, louder, and more relentless than ever. So where does that leave him? He's not trying to replicate his father. He's trying to evolve the empire, modernize it, humanize it, maybe even soften it. But in doing so, he's also putting his own name and future on the line. Because when you're Soros, you're not just a man, you're a symbol. And symbols either get worshipped or destroyed. If Soros passed down politics, Rupert Murdoch passed down power. Raw, unfiltered media power. Fox News, The Wall Street Journal, Sky. For decades, Rupert shaped what millions believe, not just in one country, but across continents. And for just as long, everyone asked the same question: who gets the empire when he's gone? The answer? It's complicated, because Rupert had 2 sons in the game, Lachlan and James, both groomed, both tested, but only one would get the keys. Lachlan was the loyalist, Australian roots, conservative views, boardroom ready from day one. He ran the New York Post, then Fox, then everything in between. To insiders, he was always the heir apparent. James? He was the wild card. Polished, progressive, always a little off script. He clashed with Fox editorial stance, criticized coverage, even publicly questioned the network's role in spreading misinformation. In any other family, that's healthy disagreement. In the Murdoch family, it's civil war. Then came 2023. Rupert announced he was stepping down. At 92, he made it official. Lachlan would be the sole executive in charge of Fox and News Corp. But here's the twist. The real control wasn't just in titles. It was in the trust, a multi-billion-dollar fund split equally among the 4 Murdoch children. So while Lachlan runs the empire today, he doesn't technically own it alone. And when Rupert is gone, the other siblings, including James, will have equal say. Which means this story's not over. Not by a long shot. James, for now, has walked away, building his own media ventures, investing in climate change initiatives, funding journalism projects with a conscience. Lachlan, he's doubled down, steering Fox through lawsuits, political firestorms, and declining cable subscriptions, trying to evolve an empire built for television into one that survives the streaming age. It's a tale of two brothers, one preserving a legacy, one rejecting it, and a father who handed them not just a company, but a live grenade. Because the Murdoch empire isn't just about business, it's about ideology, and the fight for its future has only just begun. If the Murdochs inherited a media battlefield, the Arnault brothers inherited a kingdom of elegance. Their father, Bernard Arnault, the richest man in the world, depending on the day. Chairman of LVMH, the empire behind Louis Vuitton, Dior, Tiffany, and over 70 other brands that define global luxury. But unlike Rupert Murdoch, Bernard didn't name one heir. He set a stage, and then he handed each of his 5 children a piece of the empire to see who would rise. The two to watch? Frederic and Alexander. Frederic Arnault, born in 1995, is the polished watch prince. A mathematician by training, he took the reins at Tag Heuer in his mid-20s and turned a sleepy legacy brand into a tech-forward, fashion-savvy player. He's stylish, calculated, perfectly Instagrammable, the kind of executive who can balance a spreadsheet and wear a $50,000 watch without blinking. Alexander Arnault, 2 years older, plays a different game. He led the $16 billion acquisition of Tiffany & Co., one of the biggest deals in luxury history, and became its executive vice president almost overnight. His mission? Make Tiffany relevant again. Under his leadership, Tiffany dropped a viral Not Your Mother's Tiffany campaign, revamped its product line, and partnered with Beyoncé and Jay-Z. Subtle? No. Effective? Absolutely. So, who's the heir? Neither. Not yet. Because Bernard, still firmly in charge at 75, is running his family like a corporate Hunger Games. Each child runs a division. Each is evaluated. The throne isn't given, it's earned. And here's where it gets interesting. In 2024, Frederick had dinner with Donald Trump. No press release, just a leaf photo. Was it diplomacy, branding, or a power move to edge ahead in the race? Meanwhile, Alexander keeps pushing Tiffany deeper into the US market, quietly transforming an old-school jeweler into a social media juggernaut. The Arnault brothers don't throw punches. They throw campaigns, launch collections, close deals. And Bernard, he's watching, waiting, turning succession into strategy. Because for the Arnauts, the question isn't just who will take over, it's who deserves to. Stick around because the next up is a dynasty where inheritance wasn't a gift, but a curse. Not every son of Wall Street inherits a kingdom. Some inherit the wreckage. Mark and Andrew Madoff were raised in wealth, ski trips in Aspen, yachts in the summer. Their father, Bernie Madoff, was a Wall Street icon, the mastermind behind what appeared to be one of the most successful hedge funds in history. But it wasn't real. Behind the scenes, Bernie was running the largest Ponzi scheme the world had ever seen. $65 billion. Gone. When the truth came out in December 2008, the world recoiled. Investors were ruined, charities decimated, reputations obliterated. And his sons, they were the ones who turned him in. That single decision defined the rest of their lives. Mark and Andrew weren't involved in the fraud. There's no evidence they knew. But guilt, in this case, wasn't a matter of legality. It was a matter of blood. The media didn't care. Public opinion didn't care. Every headline, every lawsuit, every stare in the street carried one message. You are your father's sons. The pressure was unbearable. In 2010, on the second anniversary of the arrest, Mark Madoff hanged himself in his Manhattan apartment. His 2-year-old son was sleeping in the next room. Andrew fought to protect his family, his health, and what was left of his name. But the stress didn't fade. He battled cancer for years. In 2014, he died at 48. In his final interviews, he said the emotional toll never left him.
I felt was a moral life where there was a clear sense of right and wrong.
There were no power moves, no company takeovers, Just two men who never asked for a legacy and couldn't outrun it. And that's the darkest twist of inheritance. Sometimes the empire you're born into isn't a fortune, it's a sentence. But not every heir stayed on the coast. Some took a different path, far from Wall Street, because the next son didn't just inherit billions, he walked away from them. Not every Wall Street heir takes the reins. Some choose the tractor. Howard Buffett is the son of Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, the man behind one of the largest and most admired empires in financial history. But Howard, he didn't build spreadsheets or chase IPOs, he planted corn, literally. While Warren was building Berkshire Hathaway into a trillion-dollar conglomerate, Howard was in Illinois, managing a 400-acre family farm. No boardrooms, no ticker tape, just soybeans, soil, and a deep sense of purpose. And here's the thing, it wasn't a rejection, it was a realignment. Warren had always said, give your kids enough to do anything, but not enough to do nothing. Howard took that to heart. Instead of inheriting the day-to-day operations of Berkshire, he found his own mission, using his resources to fight hunger, reform agriculture, and invest in global food security. He founded the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, which has donated hundreds of millions to causes across Africa, Latin America, and the US. He's worked with farmers in conflict zones, partnered with police departments, and even served as a volunteer sheriff's deputy in rural Illinois. His job? Sometimes literally on the front lines. And yet, despite his distance from Wall Street, Howard is still deeply connected to the Buffett legacy. In 2021, Warren confirmed that when he stepped down, Howard would become Berkshire's non-executive chairman. Not the CEO, not the capital allocator, the compass. His role? To ensure that Berkshire's culture, the long-term thinking, the ethics, the discipline, survives beyond its founder. Howard isn't flashy. He doesn't trend on Twitter. He doesn't post selfies with billionaires. But he understands something many heirs never do. Legacy isn't about holding power. It's about holding values. He may never run the empire, but he'll protect what it stands for. And in a world of headlines about excess, scandal, and collapse, Howard Buffett offers a rare final act to this story, one of quiet purpose. Because sometimes the son who steps off the stage ends up carrying the soul of the empire. 5 names, 5 sons, 5 vastly different futures. Some inherited control, others inherited chaos. A few walked away entirely, but all of them were born into rooms the rest of us will never see. Boardrooms, green rooms, war rooms. And every one of them had to answer the same question. What do you do when you're handed everything and expected to become someone? For Alexander Soros, it was power with a target on his back. For Lachlan and James Murdoch, it was a family feud playing out in billion-dollar headlines. For the Arnault brothers, it's still a chess match. For the Madoffs, it was tragedy in the shape of a last name. And for Howard Buffett, it was a farm, and a legacy he chose to honor on his own terms. This story isn't just about money. It's about inheritance, the kind that can buy you time or crush you under its weight. Because here's the truth. Being born into an empire doesn't mean you know how to rule one. And when the crown is handed down, it doesn't come with a manual, just pressure and expectations. So ask yourself, if you were born with billions behind you, would you try to grow it? Would you run from it? Would you change the world with it? Or would it change you first? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives into the families, fortunes, and fault lines that shape our economy. Because money moves, but legacy lasts. This is Bedlam Bear, and we'll see you in the next one.